Now, a smart home is only as good as its Wi-Fi. Why? Because if those devices can't connect to your Wi-Fi network, then kind of what's the entire point of a smart home? So at the end of the day, it's very important that you get a mesh Wi-Fi router that's worth your time and also worth your money, just so that you get the most out of your entire smart home. Getting a mesh Wi-Fi setup is like buying an actual blanket. If it's full of holes and comes up kind of short, then it's really not useful. Mesh routers cover your entire home in a blanket of Wi-Fi, a warm, cozy Wi-Fi blanket that's just super fast and, well, super consistent. Now, for the too long didn't watch crowd between the GoogleNest, the Linksys Vello, and the Netgear Orbi, the Vello comes up on top from my perspective. It's the strongest overall performer. Next up would probably be the GoogleNest Wi-Fi, and last would be the Orbi. Now, I'll be honest with you, apart from the Vello, this was strongest overall. Between these two products, the Orbi might be better in some situations, in terms of like gaming, NAS-ing, homes with brick walls, whereas the GoogleNest Wi-Fi is going to be really great if you use Google Assistant. You live in a smaller home and don't need all the different Wi-Fi repeaters, or you live in a perfect environment where Wi-Fi just flourishes everywhere. So that's where the Google Nest would be better. Now, to come to this conclusion, I installed all three products in my house and I've been using them for the last few months. To get you the results that I'm going to show you, I tested speeds in the same spots using the same device across all the meshes, and I've even gone so far to encase them in brick to see, which product has the best Wi-Fi capabilities to go through that brick. So for the remainder of this video, Monty's going to talk about the results from the 4 tests that I did. I'll also talk about the UI of the apps, the setup process, the hardware, router management. I'll also touch on the special features that each router brings, and then I'll do a small bit on the price. At Smart Homes Review 8, Monty and I, this puppy, base all our reviews on actual usage. And when it comes to smart home gadgets, I tried reviewing them in my actual living home where I spend my nights. Sure, home is where you hang your hat up, but I discovered that your home starts to suck when you can't turn off the lights, when the Wi-Fi is spotty, or smart locks don't work. So that suckiness kind of gets compounded by the fact that my family starts yelling at me when stuff doesn't work. So to circumvent this entire problem, I went and rented another house to do smart home reviews in. Yeah, I know, crazy. So for this video, I went out and purchased 3 products. I didn't get any of this stuff for free. So basically, I dropped $1,000 on Wi-Fi routers, mesh Wi-Fi routers before starting this video, hashtag reviewer, not influencer. Since no house is built kind of the same way, I had to develop enough testing points throughout my entire house. I'm pretty sure Jamie and Adam from Mythbusters would be proud, maybe. For this comparison, I picked 12 points around the house, inside and outside, main floor and basement, from the bathroom to the farthest end of the garage, from the kitchen to the basement. I just wanted to see how well the download and upload speeds and signal strengths were for each device, for each router. Then I recorded the signal strength and download speed of each location with 4 different setups, with the first being the base by itself, followed by the base with the repeater, the base encased by brick by itself, and then the base encased in brick with the repeater. I also did the test with my stock router that I got from my ISP, just kind of as a baseline, we'll say. Now, when it comes to using these as a standalone router, much like a family of raccoons looking for a new home, the basement seemed to be the place where, well, it just caused the most troubles. Every router that I have took a big hit in terms of upload and download speeds in the basement. The GoogleNest Wi-Fi had on average the highest speeds, but also the largest variability in the speeds. Now, oddly enough, the speeds from the Orbi were actually comparable to my router for my ISP, which is like half the speeds from these 2 products. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. Now, to take our testing kind of one step further, I created a heat map of the signal strength for each product, and the GoogleNest Wi-Fi destroys the other products. The weakest signal on the Google heat map is still better than the strongest signals provided by the Vello as well as the Orbi. Now, as a side note for the heat map, I realized that my neighbors actually get the best coverage. Not my house, my neighbors do. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that the GoogleNest Wi-Fi is going to be great for people looking for a single Wi-Fi router for a smaller home or apartment or condo. Like, honestly, the house that I'm in right now is pretty tiny, and I don't need 3 of these. I probably don't need 2 of these. I probably just need 1. So that's something to consider if you're just looking for a regular router, or know somebody who is just looking for a regular router. This GoogleNest Wi-Fi standalone unit is worth getting. So the next test is, well, adding the repeater to the entire setup. And once I did that, the raccoons in the basement, well, were eliminated. Now, oddly enough, there was was actually a new problem spot, which was the area right behind, or right on my deck, right behind my back door. I have no idea why. I had issues trying to measure speeds at that point. It just didn't make any sense. The only product that had the best connection at that point was actually my ISP's router. Again, no idea why that happened. Now with the full setup, the Linksys Vello had the most consistent results, followed by the GoogleNest. The Orbi's consistency in terms of speeds was, well, not consistent. But at the end of the day, every product performed better than by itself. With the heat maps for this product setup, the full Google setup provided the best results for my house, followed by the Vello, and I'm not quite sure what the Orbi is doing. There is a part of me that thinks the Orbi, I think my routers were too close together. This thing covers, I think, about 5,000 square feet. My house is maybe 2,000. And so maybe there was a bit too much interference. That's a guess that I have, I'm not sure. But all in all, across the board, the speeds for the Orbi was slower. Now onto the fun part. To really test out how strong the signal strength is for these things, we put bricks around each base. Literally, we took a base station, turned it on, and then stacked a bunch of bricks on top of it to test. Took it out, put in another one, stacked more bricks on top of it. And we did that for all three of the products. Now in this kind of hamstrung test, the Linksys Vello provided the best results. The other two products kind of had their own unique problems. The Orbi didn't have the range. I had no signal from the farthest point in my testing area. I'll also note that the Orbi speed decreased the quickest the further away you got from the base. And the GoogleNest Wi-Fi speed was overall 20 to 30% slower than the other two products. So you kind of have to pick your poison. Between the Orbi and the GoogleNest Wi-Fi, do you want to go with the Orbi with the poorer range, or do you want to go with the GoogleNest, which has decent range but slower speeds? I think I would go with the Orbi in that situation anyways. If you're finding it useful, consider getting your stuff through my Amazon links. This video isn't sponsored. This entire channel isn't sponsored. I'm a reviewer, not an influencer. I want to figure out what the best product is, and that usually means me buying all this stuff and using up all my time to make these review videos. So if you appreciate what I'm doing here, consider getting all your smart home stuff through my Amazon links. They'll be in the description. Let's keep going. So what happens when you turn on the repeater with the base, encased in brick? This test personally was going to be very useful because in my actual home, I've got a brick wall in the middle of my house. Old house, new house, brick wall. So I need a repeater that does a good job of connecting with the base and then spewing Wi-Fi everywhere else, because that brick wall is just a Wi-Fi suck. So for this test, we kept the base encased, but turned on the repeater for each one of the units. Now, out of all the tests that I did, surprisingly, this is the only one that the Orbi did better than the other two. The Orbi consistently had the highest consistent upload and download speeds. The Vello was the most variable in speeds, while the GoogleNest Wi-Fi was just consistently slow. And that consistently slow speed is the reason why I say the GoogleNest Wi-Fi is perfect for, setups where the Wi-Fi conditions are very, very pristine, we'll say.
So as I'm finishing up this video, I realized I forgot to mention that this improved connection for the Vello as well as the Orbi is due to this thing called a dedicated backhaul radio. So there's actually a connection that I don't think I can see and or track between the repeater and the base. And so it doesn't actually communicate 100% through the Wi-Fi. I believe it's got its own little thing going on in the background, which is why the speeds are much better for those products over the GoogleNest Wi-Fi, which doesn't have that dedicated backhaul radio.
So those are the results from the 4 tests that I did. I know there are a lot of holes kind of in my testing, but I think that was the best that I could do with these products. Now, I wish I could have kept my testing environment exactly the same without, anybody else's Wi-Fi overlapping my house. But, stuff like that's outside my control. I can't control how much traffic is going through my ISP's actual network. I have no idea what nodes are working in my ISP's network. So, that was the best that I could do. And I think that's a good reflection of what will happen in an actual home. That's real usage. Now, the last thing I did notice with these tests was that hardwiring my laptop into the repeaters resulted in speeds that were way faster than the Wi-Fi speeds, or way more consistent. And that's very important because if you are a gamer, you need to plug into something. You want to go with a hardwired connection so that you don't, get pwned all the time. You can go boom, headshot more often than, effing camper. It's the same thing for if you have a Plex server or you do a lot of NAS-ing. You want a hardwired connection. And the only 2 products that allow you to plug stuff into the back, for the repeaters anyways, is the Vello and the Orbi. This Google satellite thing has no connections whatsoever. So keep that in mind, and I'll elaborate on that in a couple more minutes with the hardware portion of this review. Now, when it comes to the actual apps and the UI for, setting stuff up, I would have to give my hat tip to the Google Nest as well as Linksys Vello, as those two products were incredibly easy to set up. Still, the Vello was easiest to set up because with a Google product, you have to deal with two apps. You've got the Google Home app and the Google Wi-Fi app. So when you install it, you use the Google Home app, and then when you want to manage it, you use the Google Wi-Fi app. You have two apps. It's annoying.
So another thing that I kind of had to suffer through when we were doing all these tests was that we had to reconnect and unconnect and relink and unlink all these mesh routers and mesh repeaters and whatnot. And so the Google Nest Wi-Fi, that thing was rock solid. Like you could disconnect it, reconnect it, and everything would just work fine. The Orbi took about 5 minutes each time for it to kind of figure itself out, and the Vello was so painful. Like you keep refreshing the app, then you unfresh the app, you uninstall the app, reinstall the app, and it was kind of like a shooting fish in a barrel, I guess, when it came to kind of re-linking the Vello. But that's kind of a issue that's going to be unique to me because, well, we were doing all this testing. And so if you have to do it every once in a while, it may not be as annoying to you as it was for us.
So when it comes to the actual hardware, all these products came with all the cables and stuff that you needed to connect and some really short Cat6 cables. But when it comes specifically to the hardware, the question I think you have to ask yourself is, how many gadgets are you going to hardwire into the back of your devices? Like the Orbi's got 4 ports, the Linksys has 1, the Google Nest Wi-Fi has nothing. And so, being able to plug in your printer, being able to plug in your file sharing, whatever, being able to put in your hardwire your gaming machine into the Orbi, very, very useful. You can buy a switch for the Vello. You've got one connection, you can buy a switch. A little annoying. You can't do anything like that with the Google Wi-Fi. So those are the repeaters. It's kind of the same story with the bases. The Google one does have 1 port for you to plug stuff in. So yeah, you could go add a switch, but again, that's still something you have to go and get. So, you kind of have to pick and choose. Do I plug in my file server or do I plug in my firewall to track all of this stuff that's going on in my network? When it comes to physical size, the Google Nest Wi-Fi, as you can see here, is just much smaller than everything else. Like I could almost stomach not trying to hide this. In my home, I actually do hide it under the floor because, well, that's the best way to get Wi-Fi, but everything else actually looks like a piece of technology, whereas in this looks like this could be a micro infuser, essential oils if you're into that stuff. It looks like it anyways. The last thing I will note when it comes to this hardware stuff, and it might not be that important to people, but I'll mention it, is that these 2 larger things, there's power buttons on these. This, you just have to pull it out and unplug it and hope for the best. Now, I know it's not going to be a big deal for people who aren't testing stuff, but it's something I got annoyed with. And does anybody else think that the Linksys Vello looks like an industrial strength air freshener you'd find in a bathroom? So let's talk about router management. I've been using internet connected computers for about 20 years now, and up until I'll say like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 3, I felt that most routers and their admin pages were still based on your 1990s Lycos website. Like there's a lot of blue hyperlinks to stuff that you just don't know. Now you fast forward to now, and these router admin pages look more like apps, and most of them don't actually allow you to do much. For me personally, I need to be able to forward my ports, for some of the databases that I use in my office. If you're a hardcore gamer, I haven't been a hardcore gamer in years, so I don't really care about my connection much. But if you're a hardcore gamer, you need to be able to port forward, certain ports so that your game runs smoothly. The Vello and the Google Nest Wi-Fi, these products offer port forward ways to manage your ports, whereas the Orbi doesn't, which really blows my mind, or I couldn't find it. So you've got this product that offers speeds, hardwire speeds, better than anything that you can get from the Wi-Fi network, and it doesn't allow you to forward the ports. So maybe it's smart enough to know what ports, I don't know, but I would like to see an option to control that. I couldn't find it.
But it doesn't happen in the app, but you can log into the website through orbilogin.net, which is incredibly sketchy sounding. And if you go there, it looks just as sketchy. But through the web interface, you can forward ports, which is great. But why can't I do that in the app? Like, it's just, I know we try to simplify everything so that this technology is accessible to everybody, but those options, I think, should all be accessible from the same place from every single application. But that's just me, but stupid Orbi.
Now, the other thing I looked into was being able to control internet access or monitor what people are doing on your network, so that's, if you have kids, you can kind of turn off their internet access after they watch their 630-second consecutive TikTok compilation. Parental controls are available for all these products, but oddly enough, most of them cost more money. So let that sink in. You've paid a lot of money for these things that allow you to access the internet. Now you got to pay even more money to control what people see on said internet. Yeah. The Netgear Orbi uses the parental control product called Circle. The app is actually called Circle First Generation, and the moment I see first generation in the title of a app, it seems mildly sketchy because it just feels like it's on the way out. It's almost as sketchy as that old high school classmate inviting you to catch up over lunch, knowing that they are going to try to get you into part of a multi-level marketing scheme. That's sketchy. It's almost as sketchy as that pretty girl who asks you if you want to make out, and then her boyfriend is waiting around the corner with a pea-filled balloon. Oh, Michael Scott. Now, the Linksys Vello also has parental controls, but they want you to pay for it because it's a premium service. And the Google Nest uses Google Safe Search, which will basically block out all sexually explicitly websites, but I don't know if you have the option to block out anything else. Now, when it comes to prioritizing your devices that sit on your Wi-Fi, the Google Wi-Fi doesn't allow you to do that permanently, we'll say. You can say do it for 4 hours, and then after that, your smart plug and the Wi-Fi connection from your laptop are going to fight for which piece is going to be better. I'm assuming there's hardware in there that makes that a non-issue, but I still like being able to say, like I can with developing the Orbi, that my laptop just gets the best connection all the time. It seems smart. So the last thing that I will cover in depth will be the specials that each product has. We'll say the supposed cherry on top of your very, very warm blanket sundae, Wi-Fi blanket sundae. With the Linksys Vello, you get this thing called Wear, which uses changes in the Wi-Fi signals as a way to detect motion. And that sounds incredibly cool in my opinion, but I don't know how useful that is. I've been using it for the last month or so, and it's you detect motion. Sweet. Is it inside my house? Is it outside my house? Is it on my neighbor's property? You can tone down the sensitivity of everything, but again, it's just like smart home motion sensors. You just don't know how useful it is. It's like Jedi's going I sense a disturbance in the force. It's just tell me what you know, you freaking Jedi ass. Jeez. It's if Lassie came running up to you to tell you that something was wrong, but instead of guiding you to the problem area, she just went to sleep. For the Orbi, Netgear has an outdoor module, a waterproof outdoor module, so you don't have to put your repeater in a Ziploc bag. So that it really allows you to extend, if you've got a large yard, it extends your Wi-Fi signal. And that is cool. The thing is so expensive, but it also feels really shady because in terms of range, as you saw in one of our first tests, the Orbi does the worst. So is that something that they are purposely limiting the range on their products to make you buy this thing? That just seems, again, sketchy. Now, the Google Nest probably has the most house-friendly special feature. It comes with Google Assistant, and because it comes with Google Assistant, it comes with a speaker. So if you don't mind showcasing this round puck in the middle of your desk at home, then this Google Nest Wi-Fi is going to be very, very attractive. Now, as a side note, the speaker that comes with the Google Assistant isn't as good as the speaker that comes with Google Home. The Google Home actually, I think, has a sub, and so it fills the room a lot more. So if you're planning on listening or binging on Billie Eilish, it's going to sound way better on the Google Home than it is on this Google Nest Wi-Fi. And the speaker's only on the repeater. I don't think it's on the router. The last thing is price. The Vello for $330 covers 4,000 square feet. The Google Nest Wi-Fi for 5,400 square feet is $360, and that's for the 3-pack. So if you only need to buy the base, it's going to be way cheaper, but it's $360 for the 3-pack. And the Netgear Orbi is 5,000 square feet for $330. Oddly enough, for this review, this Vello was $330. It was only 300 Canadian. So when that never happens. So that's all I got for this video. If you found it useful, considering getting your preferred router, through my Amazon links. Again, I dropped $1,000 for this video just so that I can set up a good Wi-Fi network, mesh Wi-Fi network in my test home. I'm really not quite sure what I'm gonna do with the other 2 units. What do you think, Monty? This is the first time where you're watching one of my videos, subscribe to this channel and some of my other channels. I am slowly gonna be starting producing content again for the smart home stuff. It's just taken a very long time to get ramped up again, but I do promise you guys more stuff is coming. That's kind of all I got. Thanks for watching. All right, Monty, fetch. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna throw this. It's so expensive. You guys like Monty's tie? Pew. Pew. Why? Because if those two, it can't connect. Ugh. This is gonna be so painful. That doesn't even make sense. For upload speeds, the Nest was consistent. Varied the most out of the 3 devices. The Linksys on the other hand was not quite as consistent. This is actually really bad for this one. It's almost like we're living in a house.
Jesus. Scared the shit out of me.
Did you get my knees cracking in that?
It should be in there, yeah.